So I've been a bit irritated this week, so I'm just going to come right out and say this, and it may step on a few toes, but that's okay. I keep seeing fitness influencers that are telling women online that it's not their fault that they have the body they have, or that they're not lazy, or that they're not the problem. And I know they mean well, but that kind of messaging is what keeps so many women stuck. Because sometimes you are avoiding, or you are choosing comfort, or you're not really taking care of yourself. You are being lazy. You may be running around doing things for everybody else, but you're not taking the time to, feed yourself the way you should, or you're not taking the time to take a walk, or whatever that looks like. And I'm not saying this is everybody, but I know in my own life, there were a lot of times that I was literally just being lazy. And pretending that all of these things are not true doesn't help you. It keeps you stuck exactly where you are. And the reason I know this is because this was my life for years. I didn't end up here overnight. I didn't wake up one day struggling with my weight or struggling with my health or having different issues there or not being consistent for no reason. It came from patterns, from habits, years of patterns or habits that I was choosing. People pleasing, putting myself last, comfort eating, so much comfort eating, starting over every Monday or starting tomorrow, waiting for motivation, avoiding hard things, avoiding feeling hard things, or avoiding having hard conversations because I knew that it would make other people uncomfortable. And I just didn't want to do that to them. You know, you love somebody, you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. And so it's really easy to just avoid those things and to stuff them down and to just pretend like they're not even there. But that stuff really adds up. And eventually, your body just reflects the life that you've been living for so long. And it's not trying to punish you, but that's reality. These things all get stacked up in there. And I talked a little bit on my last video about how stress was keeping me in a place that I wasn't able to lose weight and it was causing some other issues. And it's just been a really hard realization to have. But here's the empowering part. If patterns and habits created where you're at and the things that you're experiencing, habits can change it. But that doesn't start with motivation. Everybody comes in for motivation and everybody thinks they need motivation to change. But motivation is not where it starts. It starts with ownership, with taking responsibility for the things in your life. The moment where you stop explaining away why you're not doing the things that you said you were going to be doing and just start taking responsibility for it. That's where things shift. And that was a huge aha moment in my own life. Like I would say I was going to do things and then I didn't do them. And then I would kind of hear this toddler voice in my head that was whining. Like, you said you wanted to do this, or, you said you wanted to be able to buy this, but then you didn't follow through on the business idea. Or you said you wanted to lose weight, but here you are eating cookies again. Like, that was my whole life. I wasn't taking responsibility for anything. I wasn't standing up and saying, I can change this. Or maybe I was blaming my husband because he wanted me to make cookies and I wasn't eating sugar. So I would blame it on him. Like, if he would just get on board, this would be so much easier. And I'm not saying that it's not easier when your friends and family are on board. However, I didn't need to wait until he was on board. And if I'm being honest, now that I've actually started walking this out and being consistent and taking the steps that I've always said I was going to take, my husband actually is kind of coming along with me, which is super exciting because it is fun to do it together. So that's just where things start to shift is when you finally stop making excuses and take the responsibility. And like I said, I'm literally living this right now. One of the things that I'm going through is an elimination diet, which I also talked about in my last video. If you want some more details on that, I'm trying to heal my gut. And I even went to a professional to tell me what to do. Because if I'm being honest, it's easier. It's easier for somebody to tell you what to do and then just go through a list of things that they tell you. And you don't really have to take responsibility. You just have to follow rules. But easy is what has been keeping me stuck. And honestly, in this case, it was making things worse. So, yes, I'm trying to heal things and I didn't totally throw it all out, but I'm also learning how to trust my body again. And probably not even again, probably for the first time. I don't know that I have ever trusted my body that I have it within me to know what my body needs for my unique makeup and all of that. And there were a couple things that I was doing that were actually making my symptoms worse. But when I did what I felt like my body was telling me to do and let go of that rule following and having to have somebody else tell me what to do, the symptoms calmed down almost overnight. I'm still kind of in shock how fast things turned around. And not only the symptoms I was having, but my mood, my energy, everything surrounding it. And so if you want to know more about that, definitely go watch the video that I did the other day. I can link it down in the description below. But it has been crazy what's happened even since I posted that video, how much things have turned around by realizing um, the one thing that was actually keeping me stuck, and then also stepping into having my own back and not looking to somebody else to tell me everything that I needed to do. So this has actually been some of these things that kind of changed overnight are things that have been going on for months. And so this was a real wake up moment for me. Ownership of your own life and your own body is what actually moves things forward. And from that moment, something really just clicked for me. Because, like I said, for years, I've been looking for answers outside of myself, believing that I didn't know enough. I was going to screw things up. I was going to make things worse. There's no way that I knew what I needed. You know, they have more education. They definitely know better. But that hasn't been the truth. And I didn't need another plan necessarily, or another rule, or another person to tell me what to do. And I'm not saying that guidance is bad, because there are parts of that I'm still incorporating into my journey. I think it is good to have wisdom from others, and especially others that are following the Lord and giving you godly wisdom and godly advice and stepping into their expertise. So my health professional obviously has had lots of training and different things like that. And there were some different things that she wanted to work on. And I'm still doing most of those things, but taking ownership of the plan that she gave me and tweaking a couple little things made all the difference in the world. And I didn't shame myself for not following the rules. And I didn't, have that drill sergeant in my head that I normally have that's yelling at me because I'm not doing what I'm told and I'm not being good, and like having all these things come back up. That's been so different lately. And like I said, it has changed everything like basically overnight. And so, again, I'm not saying that having outside guidance or wisdom is bad by any means, but at some point, you have to take ownership of your own life. Take ownership of your health. Take ownership of your choices. Take ownership of your habits, because nobody else can do that for you. And that's exactly why doing it alone is so hard, because when you feel alone, a lot of your habits and patterns just feel normal. So maybe eating McDonald's and peanut M&Ms alone in the car. Ask me how I know that. Maybe that just feels like something that's normal, or something that you can't get a grip on or break out of, or scrolling instead of sleeping. Or maybe you convince yourself, this is another one that I did, convince yourself that this one snack won't matter. Or maybe it's telling yourself that you'll just get it out of your system and swear that you're going to start and go hard tomorrow, and you're going to be disciplined and motivated tomorrow, because that has been the theme throughout my life for as long as I can remember. I'm just going to go ahead and get it out of my system, and I'll start tomorrow. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to be hardcore. I'm going to follow it through this time. I'm done lying to myself. That was my whole story until it wasn't, because I had somebody that interrupted that thought pattern in my head. And that's why you need people who tell you the truth, and not just people who want to make you feel better, because truth actually changes things. And that's why I created 100 Pounds Down. It is not for perfect women. It is not for women who have it all figured out. It's for women that are ready to stop this start again, stop again cycle. And you're ready to take ownership for your life. Yeah, you might be the problem, but the good thing about that is if you're the problem, you can also be the solution. If the problem is outside of you, or the problem is other people in your life, or whatever that may be, you don't have control over them. You can't control the government. You can't control big food and big pharma. Ooh, I shouldn't go there. You can't control them. You can't control your kids. You can't control your spouse, but you can control yourself. And so if you're ready to take ownership, that's the best place to start, is with yourself. Control the things that you can control. And if everything that you've been doing is not getting you the results you want, you have the control to be able to change that. And so stepping up and taking that ownership and that responsibility in your life, it sounds really hard to take blame for where you're at in your life, but that is the first place to start if you actually want to make a change. And if you're ready to learn how to follow through and to be consistent, it's really hard to do alone. This totally changed when I started working with my coaches and they could see things that I couldn't see. They would call me on my crap. They would not let me fall back into the patterns that I've just been in for so long that sometimes I don't even realize I'm falling into. It's just so helpful to have somebody on the outside call you when you're in the middle of a pattern that you've just done for so long. So if this episode felt a little direct, I'm so glad. If I stepped on some toes, I'm so glad because taking responsibility for yourself really is the first step. And when you stop blaming things around you or looking for reasons why you can't follow through and you can't be consistent, it changes everything. And I do want to remind you that you don't have to change everything today. You do not have to fix everything today. In fact, that's probably the worst thing you can do is want to change everything all at once and then you end up burning out and just falling back off the wagon. So you only have to make one different choice. That's how it all starts. All right, guys, I will see you again soon.